Welcome to the Jersey Justice Podcast, featuring your hosts, attorneys Gerald Clark and Mark Morris.
So as I was saying, I got the my distance used to be really bad, and I got the LASIK surgery. And
was there a time of what was the healing time?
so the LASIK surgery, it was like life changing. It was really life changing. Like to be able to like wake up and see the world, you know, because I would wake up and it was just
be a blur.
Everything's a blur. And I got the LASIK surgery, and I was really apprehensive about it.
Yeah,
because
halos, you don't know what's going to happen.
You don't want people messing with your eyes.
Yeah.
So I went to this doctor in New York, and it was crazy. My wife dropped me off there, and at like 10 a.m. And then you lie on this thing, and it's like it's a little bit claustrophobic because you kind of get locked in, and then it's like, and they're there, and then
You one at a time?
I did both.
I would have done one.
I did both.
You know what I mean? Because if they're going to screw it up once,
yeah,
you know what I mean. That is the more conservative.
It's weird though. So then I'm lying on the thing, and there's no anesthesia. I don't think they put numbing drops in the eye, right. And then everything went black everything went just out except for a black dot. That's all you could see, and that shit's scary. And it's like 4 minutes each eye, and then you wake up, you get up, they put you in the room, and I was like, holy shit, I can see. And then
How long did you wait?
So then you put on these glasses, and you get a cab, and you go to the hotel in New York, and you sleep. You sleep for like 12 hours, and then you wake up, and you're kind of good. And you gotta keep like low light for a day or two, I think it was. And then it was just crazy. It was life changing. It was like a rebirth.
That's awesome.
But then the reading gets screwed up. The reading, like you can't. Getting the LASIK surgery, so then I couldn't read, so now I need reading glasses.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with reading glasses.
So that's what we came here.
I was saying I do bifocals at trial.
Yeah.
Because if I want to see something long, I have a distance issue. But then if I don't want to take the glasses off and I look down, it magnifies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I don't mind it.
But not having like contact lenses and the whole ritual, and it makes traveling easier. Not. Did you ever do contact lenses? No.
I don't like anything in my eye, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just me.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Those are the injury cases that get me the most sometimes too. An eye injury, like a ruptured globe, something like that.
Eyes and burns.
Well, burns are a tragic, terrible injury. There's nothing more painful I can imagine.
Let me ask you: are you able to control the phone, or are you addicted to it like everyone else is?
No, I can take it off if you want it.
No, I'm fine. I'm just curious. Like, how are you dealing with all this technology these days? Like I'm addicted to the phone and social media.
You ever hear of Plaud?
I've heard of Claude. Yeah.
Plaud, P.
Plaud.
Like
Yep.
plaid with
Plaud. If you put it on the back of your phone, I left it at home today.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of surreptitiously recording. I don't play that game.
Right.
I find it to be. I don't know. I think it's duplicitous. But I do like to record my experts. And if I have Plaud on here and I hit this, it'll print it out from my phone.
I've heard of that app, yeah.
So it's the app is just not an app. You have to have Plaud connected.
Right.
That's what this little plate is.
Got
it's
it.
For magnetic. But I'm not great with technology, but I'm not bad with it. I could be much better. But for instance, I have in my office LexisNexis attached to a database.
Yeah.
Lexis cost me $9,000 a month. I also have AI that costs, if you have 1,000 files, it's $350 a file. So you can figure out the costs associated. But if I say, give me a medical chronology and print it out and give me a summation of the case, it'll tell me what attorneys did what the medical chronology was. If I say all the deps are loaded and if I say, this expert has 15 deps, can you give me every place where there's a contradiction? It spits it out in 5 minutes.
But do you find with AI, though, you still need to dive in and read the stuff and do it the old-fashioned way? And because AI makes mistakes.
Well, I do everything the old-fashioned way. I print out everything. But it saves me time because it knows, it lets me, so if there's a point in the medical record where it says something. I got a 1,000-page medical record. It'll
Yeah.
give me a little 1, 2, 3, and they're lit up. I hit it. It goes right to that page in the medical record, and it highlights the part I want.
Yeah.
So it saves time, but
Yeah.
it's very costly. I've never been willing to shy away from cost.
Yeah, you had that. And Barry Eichen, I appreciate you coming on. You know, I don't know, you're probably like about 15 years older than me or so. And when I was a young lawyer, kind of switching and going into the plaintiff's game, you know, I always viewed you as among the top guys out there. You know, I would think of like, you know, Nagel, Maisie, Ray Gill, Barry Eichen, you know, and so I appreciate you coming on the show.
That's a nice compliment. I appreciate it.
No, it really was. And I was always fascinated by your career and what makes you tick and stuff. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Yep, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we did a quick little recap, and I think probably for me 10, 11 years ago, I sat in his office with you, kind of starstruck too, because your reputation does precede you, and sat there taking notes and probably didn't say much. But
So,
You know, as you get older, you kind of pinch yourself, right? Because I grew up really low to the ground, right? My dad was a manager at a Pet Boys, had 5 kids, you know, barely could pay the rent. I mean, we grew up very low to the ground. You know, I used to, as a kid, think to myself, you know, I wonder if I'm ever going to be able to afford my own apartment. You know what I mean? Like, and then I was always a decent student until I got to kind of middle school and discovered all kinds of things I shouldn't have discovered. And then I kind of got back to being a good student again later. But bottom line is that, you know, you never know where your life's going to bring you, right?
yeah. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Edison.
Oh, okay. So you Middlesex County your whole life.
Oh, yeah. Yep, next to Highland Park.
Yeah. So then how'd you make your way to law school? Like, how'd that all happen?
Well, I didn't think I was employable.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I was going to have to work for myself, right? And I wasn't very good at taking direction from anybody. So I said, you know what? Let me go to law school. And when I went to law school, I decided, you know what? I clerked when I was in law school, but I can do what anybody else does. I'm just going to hang a shingle. And so I hung a shingle. And I actually drove by this big office building. It was pretty cool. And it said space available. So I walk into the guy. I couldn't afford it. Space. I walk into the guy and he said, hey, you know what? Are you the owner? He goes, yeah, I'm the owner. I said, I'll tell you what. If anyone doesn't pay your rent, I'll do it for nothing if you give me a little office. And that's how I got my first office.
So what was the name of the office?
Well, it was on Durham Road.
But like, what was your law firm name?
It was Law Offices of Barry Eichen.
Okay.
And, you know, the thing was you weren't allowed to put a sign out. But my office was right in the middle of the building. There was a huge window. So I had someone go
In the
up.
window.
I had someone on the window put Law Office of Barry Eichen so it looked like I owned the building.
Okay.
was it like an attorney ethics thing or something? You couldn't put a sign out? Or
No,
was
no,
that
no.
just
That
with
was
that
his rules, the owner of the
particular-
building.
Got it.
And there's also like zoning rules too. Some
Yeah,
towns
yeah.
you can't put a sign up, you know?
Yeah.
So
But it
what,
worked out for about 6 months, and then I was able to buy my own little condo office.
so what kind of stuff were you doing? So
Everything.
So you graduate law school. Where'd you go to law school?
Seton Hall.
And so you graduate and immediately hung up a shingle. Like you passed the bar and
2 months. Yeah.
Wow.
and
hung
what
it
kind
up.
of stuff? Tell us about that practice. In the early
Well,
days when you started out.
In high school, I wrestled, and I knew a lot of guys. I had a lot of friends, and a lot of them got in trouble. And many of them went to the police station, Edison High, right? And I went to school with a lot of those guys who got on the force. And when I hung my shingle, those guys just sent me work, like a lot of work,
Yeah.
in every area you can imagine. I mean, I tried a murder case. I tried a drug kingpin case. I tried just about anything I can get my hands on to try. And then I went to the mayor and asked him if there, you know, back then, boy, that was the 80s. I said, I grew up in town. I'd like to be a municipal prosecutor. And then I started you get to try a ton of cases, right? I tried everything I could try.
So you did it like a murder case and a kingpin case early on in your career?
Oh, yeah. I actually went to the public defender's office and said, let me not endanger somebody. Let me learn what I should learn. And I spent, I don't know, a good month with at that time, the head of the public defenders was a guy named Brad Ferenc. And he said, kid, you got a lot of guts. Let me help you with this. And let me tell you the ins and outs and the pitfalls. And because I'm not going to hurt anybody. In other words, I'm not going in like a knucklehead.
Right.
And I'm not going to practice on somebody's life.
Yeah.
So I learned what I needed to learn.
But this is still in your law firm, or did you then go and work in the public defender's office?
No, never worked for anybody.
Okay.
I went, what I did was I just went, I said, Mr. Ferenc, can you help me? And, I went to his office on a Saturday, Sunday morning, spent the whole day, talked to guys that tried cases that were similar and did what I needed to do.
So how does the kingpin and like a murder guy trust a young lawyer like that? Like how does that happen? Like was your price cheaper than the guy down the street or something, or how does that work?
To tell you the truth, my prices were never cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, I got what if someone billed at $250, I billed at $5 because I was putting in 3 times the time, and I knew I was gonna. In my mind, I knew I was gonna win.
Yeah.
Right. So as a young lawyer, I just thought I was invincible. Right?
Yeah.
Not till you get older do you learn that you have some vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, as a young person, you're invincible.
Yeah.
So I wasn't afraid one bit. I just got on my feet and did what I had to do. And so,
where does that come from? Like, where does that character trait come from? To be like a young 20-something-year-old hanging your own shingle in 87, like, I could try this murder case.
I just always thought that there was nothing I couldn't do if I put my mind to it, right? So I guess that's a God-given thing. Some of us have it and some of us don't. That doesn't mean you're not great at what you do. I mean, you can be confident and be terrible at what you do. But I always had a confidence, and I brought it with me to my cases. And quite frankly, as an older trial lawyer, I don't puff my chest out like I did as a young lawyer. I try to do a great job, and I think I understand the human condition growing up without a lot. I understand what it's like to struggle, as my father did. And to me, I wanted to help those people because the working man, he doesn't have anybody helping him anyway. I mean, it's a struggle. And if you look at the world right now, I mean, take a look at what's going on in the world. I'm not going to be, I'm going to try not to be political, but I can tell you right now, the divide between rich and poor is terrible, and people are angry, right? And when people are angry, you see it in jury verdicts, right? Because the politicians, a lot of them call it public service. In my mind, a lot of it's self-service, not public service.
Yeah.
You're not helping the struggling class in any way. If you look at some of the voting that goes on, some of the state institutions get passed in the middle of the night $1 billion in funding, while property taxes are the highest in the country. And for how long are people going to take that? This is why you see runaway jury verdicts, and it's getting worse. So, especially post-COVID. If you look at post-COVID, I mean, sometimes I'll give examples of it, but post-COVID, if you look at what went on with food prices, it's astonishing.
Yeah.
I mean, as a young kid, I was a kid. If my father brought home a pizza, right, and it was, Sicilian pie, boy, that was a treat.
Yeah.
A little more money, you were like, wow, I'm having a Sicilian pie tonight, right?
Yeah.
But, as a kid, I always liked fruits and exotic fruits for some reason. Like I'd like Chinese apples. They call them pomegranates. We call them that. I don't know if that's a term that's in any way. I don't want to offend anybody, but that's what we called it as a kid.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, before COVID, often I'd skip lunch and I'd get fruit, like just a little container of fruit. And I'd pay like $3.99 for that container of fruit.
Yeah.
I remember post-COVID, I went to buy that little container at King's one day that I paid $2.99, $3.99 for. It was $20.
Wow.
Imagine that inflation.
Yeah.
Sticker shock.
Yeah.
And I do okay. I'm not the richest guy in the world. I'm not the poorest. But the fact is, I do well in trials, generally speaking, and I've been relatively successful. And when you see that and it sticker shocks me, imagine what it does to a family, to a guy that's trying to raise a family on a steady paycheck, and he's paying food prices like that.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do that now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm a lot older than you. I mean, when we grow up, if the neighbor, my father would say the neighbor's like 75 years old, Dad, back. You go out and help him.
Yeah.
Shovel the driveway, right? And
Yeah.
all the other kids would pitch in and help that neighbor out. You don't see community anymore.
Oh, God, no. Yeah.
When's the last time you saw community helping people?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No, it's people don't leave their houses. Their faces are in their phones and God knows what else, People don't communicate anymore.
It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
I mean, they don't do real communication. I don't think the phone communication and the texting, I don't think it's a real human interaction.
Now, the paradigm has changed completely.
I think that social media is just, I don't think it's real. It's not a real thing. But it's
think
causing real problems, though, in the world.
Well, it's not only real, it's debilitating to people. It kind of stumps growth, social growth.
Yeah.
Right? And interaction. How many more people are depressed?
There was one of my kids' friends was walking into the driveway. Like I was at the end of my, I was in my backyard in the driveway. One of my kids' friends, I see him walking up the driveway, and he's walking, looking like this, walking up. And then he sees me, and he goes, "Oh, hey, Mr. Clark," and he immediately rips out his phone and puts his head in his phone.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't do this.
They couldn't talk to you.
He texts you, "Hey, good to see you."
Yeah, it's crazy. That's why I was asking about like how you're controlling this, because last time we had a real deep, more spent time together, it was probably like 10 years ago.
Over a case.
Yeah, and the world is so different now. So I'm trying to
I like pre-internet, right? Pre-cell phone.
Yeah.
You can't escape.
Yeah.
Anything now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like Frankenstein, the technology is going to make your life, better, but the monster overtakes you. They're talking about that it's just going to be like the cell phone is just a bandwidth thing, and the cell phone's going to be implanted in your head. So instead of looking it up and say summarize these medical records, you're just going to think to yourself, and then the records will be summarized.
You're just going to think to yourself because I'm not going to
our
allow that.
grandkids. Our grandkids will be. It's going to be our grandkids.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
All right, so you hang out your shingle, you make your contacts in Edison. You got the law enforcement. You're personable, kind of like a street guy in the sense that you can talk to people. Do you tell us how the practice then grows? Do you end up start hiring lawyers, or how does it work? And
well, I was a solo for a little while, and there were different iterations of the firm because you got to be with like-minded people, and you know how hard that is yourself, right? And so,
did you take on partners at some point when you said there was different iterations?
Well, I had associates.
Okay.
I never really had equal partners until I merged with Billy Levinson, or he merged with me. He had a smaller shop, and he came in, and Billy was a Stanford guy initially, very bright. I think he graduated #1 from Pingree. I think he was just cerebral, a very bright guy, and so. When I merged with him, the kind of paradigm changed a little bit. We got into a little bit more sophisticated areas, right? We started to do some asbestos work, some, railroad work, a lot of construction cases, and a whole lot of med mals, which was really his forte. And so I think the sophistication of the firm got a little higher. And so after that, I started to try more cases. And then when I saw what I could do, I was like, okay, this stuff isn't that hard at all. You know what I mean? It's just put your head down.
Do you remember your first jury trial, like your first jury verdict?
I remember trying a closed head injury case with very little impact, and a guy who had 6 kids who was struggling. And, he actually got divorced because he didn't want creditors to get his house. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I have a responsibility here. This guy's got 6 kids. And I remember the judge letting in why he got divorced, right? Because somehow this guy told, he answered his own interrogatories. He was pro se. And when I got the case, he had already answered them. I was thinking, how am I going to deal with this with the jury?
So wait, he gets divorced so that it then goes in his wife's name
Yes.
to protect from creditors and stuff.
Right.
Like a fraudulent conveyance, allegedly type thing, where they look
Yeah,
back.
so I was thinking, that's going to be a negative. And then I thought, you know what? Let me put Fred on the stand. I said, hey, Fred, do you love your children? He goes, oh, I love my children more than anything. Would you protect them and do anything to protect them, just like all of us? Yeah, I would. He started crying. You know, he had no impact. I don't know what I got, 550, some crazy number for back in the 80s. A big number, but it saved his house and it saved his life. And I felt real good.
Yeah.
Because I made some money, but I also helped a family.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool. I think I'll keep going this way.
So that was the Eichen Levinson firm. I remember that.
No, that was before Eichen Levinson. You said my first trial.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was way before Eichen Levinson. I don't know that anyone's that I've been with has tried as many cases as I have.
Yeah.
Including Bill. But that being said, we only lasted, I don't know, 10 years max. And then he wanted to retire, and I had a different idea for growth of the firm than he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I moved forward.
So how many lawyers did you guys have around that time when you guys split up or whatever, or he retired?
Well, it wasn't a split up. It was really a buyout.
Okay.
I think he had, I don't know how many lawyers we had, maybe 10. I don't remember. But it wasn't a little bit. I mean, we grew and grew and grew. And we tried to get sophisticated lawyers. You know, we brought in Billy Crutchow, and who was med mal defense. And we kind of turned him into plaintiff med mal. And then later on, Billy Crutchow and I were together for a few years before we brought on Zaslow.
Right. Med mal is tough, though, isn't it? I mean, med mal is like, I always heard, because I've never done medical malpractice. We've done a couple things in terms of like physical therapy malpractice. We did
a pharmaceutical malpractice case.
Yeah.
But that was, supposed to dispense anti-anxiety, and they dispense antidepressant. It was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, look.
Like med mal, in my view, expensive as heck. I heard the insurance companies defend it like to the hilt. The doctors have to consent to a settlement, and it's just we get people come to us for med mal cases all the time, and a lot of times I'll tell people, I'll say, listen, if you can find any lawyer to take your case, because don't you find that like they don't want the med mal cases?
Well, first of all, people generally don't know how to do med mal. When I first started, I had a nurse on staff and a doctor.
Right.
So I wasn't going to, again, there's no way I was going to experiment with someone who was, in extremis, who had terrible outcome, and they were going to be my guinea pig.
So
I had a doctor.
Yeah. Is this early on in your practice?
It was before Billy. So I brought Stu Hochran on, who was a lawyer and a doctor, a pulmonary internist. And then I had a nurse on staff, which we still do. And so if you're gonna, the paradigm for handling med mal is different than any other, right?
So what did you do there? Did you take the money that you made early on and invest it back into the business? Because a kid, like you said, I don't know, not say poor kid, but how did you afford all that? I'm assuming you made
I just reinvested and I borrowed money.
Right. Okay.
Then what did I have to fear? I didn't get married till I was 32. So I didn't have responsibility per se, right? So I invested everything I had back in. And so I did that, and I learned the medicine as best I could, and I did it. Now, I don't like doing any one area because for me, it would stunt my growth, so to speak. So I do construction, and I've had great results. I have electrocution cases against the power company. I have, the governor of Pennsylvania signed off on me to sue some of the major drug companies who named, I would rather not mention, but some of the major drug companies for overcharging Pennsylvania Medicare and Medicaid recipients. That lawyer that had that case had never tried a case before. And he said, I need a really good trial lawyer. Barr, would you do this for me if I get the governor to sign off on you? So I spent 3 months against one drug company, and we got $51 million. And then I spent another 3 months against another drug company. I don't know if that was 26 or 28 million. And then they paid, and they started all paying. And so they were called AWP cases, average wholesale price, right? Because they were supposed to charge the average wholesale price, and our allegation was they did not. So I tried a lot of those cases. I was offered to try a case where a venture capitalist took, actually a law firm had brought in a person who was a bioengineer who developed a drug, and this law firm indicated that they'd bring in a venture capitalist firm and then told them that they should sell for a cheap price to the venture capitalist. I don't know what it was, 10, 15 million. And then they turned around 3 months later and sold it for 300 million. So, a hedge fund who knew an owner of a hedge fund called me and said, "Hey, Barr, there's this case. The guy's a friend of mine. We think he got defrauded by a huge national law firm. Would you sue him?" And I said, "Yeah, if it's the right case, yeah, I'll take that case." But I wound up passing on it. But that just, for me, it didn't work. There were some problems that were associated with it, so I passed. But that's just to give you an example. There's no case I can't try.
Well, were you smart in school? Like, did you get super high grades in school? Like, we had Alan Cantor on here, and I know you know Alan Cantor. You might have worked with him a little bit over the years, but smartest lawyer. I really, he went to Harvard, and he hung up a shingle, and like that made sense to me. Like that a guy like genius level smarts could do that. Were you like that too? Like, did you get super high grades and all that, and overachiever, or is this some other?
I'm going to answer you this way.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was always one of the kids that were able to, when I was in grammar school in the 60s and 70s, right? You had to be top like 5% to take a language when you got to middle school. So I got picked to take a language, right? But then when I got to middle school, I discovered all kinds of things, sports and other things I shouldn't have got involved with, and kind of dropped out of that for a while. And then, when I got to high school, I started to engage again.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of being the smartest guy in the world, right? The credentials never impressed me.
Yeah.
How do you handle people? Can you communicate? Do you have common sense? Are you quick on your feet? The fact that you hold a degree from Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, yes, that's impressive. But that doesn't make you any better than me on my feet.
Right.
Not even close.
The courtroom's kind of the great equalizer in a lot of ways. Would you think?
Absolutely. So that kind of thing doesn't really. I don't need to be the smartest guy in engineering. I don't need to be the best mathematician. I need to be the most effective guy.
Yeah.
I need to be able to reach people's soul, and you get that by being human.
Right.
So I told your partner that I had a case with a 75-year-old woman who was walking down the street in Newark.
Yeah.
And she just had breakfast, and she walked by this little store, and the owner someone had taken like a $2 bottle of shampoo. I guess it was an area in Newark where someone was struggling, and they needed shampoo. So what happened was the owners, their system was,
You're going to say ice stormed the place and tackled people?
Well, that's what he did. Like, this guy had a wall of shame. If you took something and got caught, he'd put your picture in his store, and it was actually a pretty big store.
Yeah.
But so they'd say chase everybody.
Right.
So this big 3 security guards come running out. They bump this little old woman who hits her head on the cement. 75 years old. And a buddy of mine had that case, and he said, Barr, I'm not good with the medicine, but you are. There's a neurologist, there's a neuroradiologist,
yeah,
a neuropsychologist. There's a lot of experts here, and I don't know what to do with them. Would you cross them? I said, yeah, I'll only cross them if I can close as well. So, because I'm not going to spend that time and then have someone do a closing that isn't what I would do.
Yeah.
So I remember that case, not because it's my biggest, it's not by far, but because I felt really bad for this woman who was like, she'd just been in the hospital for dementia, beginnings of dementia 3 months earlier. So, you know, I'm crossing one of the neuropsychologists who worked for remember the cases where kids were ingesting lead paint and they were neurologically impaired?
Yeah, the paint chips, yeah.
Yeah, so this guy only worked for the defense against the kids, right? So I cross him on that immediately, and immediately the jury's shaking their head. They don't like this guy. So, I took like 3 minutes. I didn't have to take a lot of time. They got it. So when they closed, the defense started to say, she had dementia anyway. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? So I got up. And I don't really prepare for closing. I just talk from my heart.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So I got up.
Do you have at least a PowerPoint or pointers, or you just talk?
When the defense is writing, closing, I write down what issues I want to handle.
But other than that, nothing? Like
No.
you don't have, I want to make sure I hit this, that, or...
Not on closing.
Wow.
So what I did was I wrote down the issues and I got up and I said, a trauma hastens dementia, which means it speeds it up. And so what she had left, they stole from her. And let me tell you about age in America. In many countries and cultures, we really care about our elderly, and they're important to us because they have wisdom. But here, they're worthless. We throw them in a nursing home, and we ignore them, and the nursing homes, a lot of them don't care. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. And I looked at the jury, and I said, I was lucky. We were poor, but my mother loved us. She was born in Italy. She cooked for us. She cared for us. And I said, if I could have 5 minutes with my mother at 95, who didn't lose a step, bright, if I could have 5 minutes, and I started to tear up. And I didn't know I was going to tear up.
Yeah.
I didn't act.
Right.
I just said, oh my God. And I started to tear up. And I look up and there's 3 women in their 60s, like completely teared up.
Yeah. Wow.
And I said, what happened here is a terrible thing. It's not forgivable. What she has left, you have to make right.
Right.
And so I calculated at 75, you have 8 million minutes left of life. Because in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people said you're going to overreach. Well, I think a life is worth something.
Yeah.
I don't think you can overreach on a life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's worth something. To me, it's worth something, right? Yeah. So, when they came back with $8 million, I wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah.
I looked at them and said to myself, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because she didn't have much. And what's left better be comfortable after what you took.
Yeah.
And shamefully didn't care one way or the other.
So that lawsuit's against the store for putting the 3 goons to go tackle the woman?
Yeah, well, I hired a police, there was a police procedures expert. There was all kinds of, there was probable cause issues. Yeah. All these other things.
Can I break down a few things from that, from what you just talked about? Because you started to say, so we always think like, who are our listeners and things. A lot of people don't know, but in New Jersey, you can't suggest a number to the jury. You can't say this poor lady.
You can suggest a number. You can't
you
suggest
can't
a
suggest
dollar
value.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So you can't say this case is worth $8 million, but you can do what you did, some time unit analysis where you break down her life expectancy in days, months,
I hate
years.
that model. But in New Jersey, somehow our life isn't worth anything if you're dead. You know what I mean? There's no loss of it. It's called hedonic damages, and there's no, we don't have it in New Jersey. And that's, this case in another state, it's funny. You can go from state to state and have a case worth like 100 times more without exaggerating in another state.
So you've got that kind of, I don't want to say hamstringing you, but you somewhat do that. You can't suggest a number to the jury. And then also, I think you said early on, you connect with the jury by being human, but there's a lot of rules in court that we have to follow too, a lot of which are kind of designed to not try and be a human being. Like one of the things is like the golden rule argument you hear a lot, where you can't be like, jury, put yourself in the shoes of the injured person.
But you can you can get around that if you do it smart. right?
So that's kind of what I want to hear a little bit about, because I feel like anything that touches even close to those types of arguments, like what you did, which sounds like it was very effective, defense jumps up and down.
I told
Did you put them on notice of the time unit that you were going to do it in
I do that
closing?
every trial in advance.
You just do it automatically.
Just a blanket,
It's an
reserve the
automatic.
right.
How long ago was this trial?
January last year.
Oh, this one that you just told us about. Okay.
It was a new one. That's why it was at the forefront of my mind. Look, you can use words like reasonable, right? Because your jury instructions, you can read the jury instructions if you have half brain, right? You want to read the jury instructions to know what you have to prove, right? So you've used the word reasonable, right?
That sounds like a defense. I don't like the word reasonable. It's like a defense thing.
Well, I'll tell you,
that's a
what.
defense phrase.
If it's in the jury instruction, and you're a very bright lawyer.
Not as bright as you, Barry.
I doubt that. Look, you were young, and I liked you, and we had a lot of conversations when you were in trial. But that being said, you've done very well for yourself, and you're very highly respected. And so I wouldn't sell yourself short.
Thank you.
That being said, reasonable, if you look it up in the dictionary, it says what a person would give. What a person would give. I don't care if the defense uses it.
Yeah.
What would you give? So you don't have to tell the jury what would you give, but you can look them in the eye and say, you know what? What would a reasonable person give to be in this? What would they give to be in a spot like this? Or what would it take for them to be in a spot like that?
There's an old...
right? Think about that.
Do you read the trial books? Do you read like David Ball and Rick Friedman?
I don't read any of those guys.
You just do. You just do the book of Barry Eichen.
I'm throwing all my notes out.
I'm myself, and I don't want to be rude in any way. Those guys are around because they're bright and they have great ideas. But man, I'm going to be me.
So that's a great lesson, because I once. Do you still have your office in Ocean County?
I do.
I don't know how one can make a living as a plaintiff's lawyer in Ocean County, but
oh, I'll tell you a great story. I got a great Ocean County story, but go ahead.
All right, well, I'll just tell you my Ocean County
heard
story
that statement
real quick.
Great.
I was, in terms of trial techniques and being yourself, like I would read the books and study those books, and I got an idea in one of them, and it was you can do a want ad. In closing, you open up a newspaper and say, 80-year-old woman gets tackled by a thing, this medical, and how much would you need to pay to like hire that, to take that job?
Of course.
And I did it, and I'm like, that sounded great, and it just didn't come. It wasn't me.
It's not you.
It was gimmicky.
If it's not you, it doesn't work, brother.
The guy was a passenger in a car, salt of the earth, Ocean County guy, T-boned, breaks his leg. I think NJM was offering like maybe $200,000 to settle the case, $225,000. And I'm like, are you not? No. So I take the case to verdict. Jury awards my client $125,000. And they were shaking his hand on the way out like they just did him a real solid favor.
It's Ocean County.
Yeah. So
retirees, they only have so much money.
And I would see Barry Eichen's office in Ocean County. I'm like, why does he have an office down here? And how do you make any money down here as a plaintiff's lawyer? It's terrible.
Well, I'll tell you what,
plaintiffs.
I've had 2 trials in Ocean County and only 2 personally. One was a herniated disc, and I remember my client being a nice guy and the judge telling me, you got to settle, Barry, because no one gets paid here. And I got I got, I don't know, $720,000. And I don't even think it was operated. But the next one.
As a verdict. You got $720,000 verdict?
Verdict. And then I had another one where a police officer didn't secure a scene, and I sued the cops, and the judge said no one wins against cops in Ocean County, and so did the defense attorney. And so on the jury, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if this plays or doesn't play. It's politically correct. It's not politically correct. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to tell it like it is.
Right.
So my mother was Italian Catholic, strict. My father was German Jew, strict. Right? So his family didn't go to the wedding. So, because he married outside the religion.
Got it.
Right? So, during the trial, we picked.
What were you raised?
Well, there were 5 of us, and we got to pick, right? And then no one, by the time, it was such a strained marriage, although they loved us, it was difficult, right?
Largely because of the religious and the families.
Thing. It was very tough.
Yeah.
If you want to know why I'm angry a lot of times, right? So why I have something to prove. It's because I'm flawed. to a degree that's embarrassing. But in any event, so what happens is I'm picking this jury, and Lakewood has a huge Hasidic community. So one of the people are Hasidic and he turns out to be the head of the jury, like he's the foreman, right?
He stayed on your jury.
It's on the jury.
Every time I'm picking in Ocean County, someone says, at 2:00 on Friday afternoon, I have to leave and always let off.
Yeah. So here's what I do. I know I have a tough sell, but you know what's great about the Hasidic community? They pick themselves up. They support each other. So I looked at him and I said, you know what? My client wasn't very good on the stand, and he was scared. He's alone. He has nobody. Some of us are lucky enough to be a member of a community that lifts them up. Why don't you lift him up? Because no one's going to lift him up.
Yeah.
And I think I got 500 on that one, which was, the judge told me, a no cause waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And this is another thing. There's some very, very good judges, but there are some judges that want to move their stuff quick. And if you're going to be influenced about how much your case is worth based on somebody else's evaluation who doesn't know it, didn't live with it, doesn't know any of the players,
Yeah.
you might as well just keep your bag at home and settle everything.
Just hang it up.
Hang it up.
Yeah.
And so that being said, so what does that mean? It just means you have to pitch to the situation you have.
Right.
Right? To the cards you're dealt with, you got to play them. And so I thought that was interesting because you said about Ocean County, but it's a rough county. You have retirees, you have conservative people. I think the incomes aren't very, they're not very big in Ocean County for the most part.
How do you select, maybe not today or, maybe going back 5-10 years ago, how do you select your cases like that, the one you just said, that second Ocean County verdict where the plaintiff didn't do good on the stand? Do you select your case and say they're not going to make a good, witness, or I don't like the facts, or do you, how do you do that? Do you kind of pick the good ones, or?
I kind of sometimes pick the bad ones just to test myself.
That's what I'm asking.
So I like.
We try to keep the inventory good.
That's smart. It's smart. But I mean, of course you select some. As I get, I'm 66 years old. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to do it another 10 years. I feel like I'm more effective now than I've ever been.
Right.
But I think that I've been much more selective in the last 5 years. I've tested myself a couple times with a woman in Newark because that was a tough case, and the case in Ocean just because I wanted to, because it wasn't really mine. It was an associate, and I wanted to show him have no fear.
Right.
Right. So there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
But I try nowadays to pick cases that people are catastrophically injured or wronged.
Yeah.
And I try to take those and be more selective and let the younger attorneys cut their teeth on more difficult cases.
Yeah. I mean, probably a dumb question, but have you lost verdicts? I mean, have you gotten no caused? And
of course, but not often.
Right. And how do you account for that? Like, are there
learning.
some cases, no matter what you do, doesn't it all come down to jury selection?
All is a big word. I don't like to use absolutes.
Yeah, I know.
Is jury selection important? Of course it is.
Yeah.
Now, look, I've tried Ford rollovers. I beat Ford, to the tune of $19 million.
Zach Rocky, I think, was one of them.
I tried that case was a no-pay. They weren't going to give me a thing on it. I mean, finally, when I picked a jury, they went to $400,000. Keep it. There's not an attorney in the country that I'm not going to go up against and feel confident I can beat.
Yeah.
No one's going to tell me I can't beat you. Yeah. Not happening. That being said, there are some very good defense attorneys that can steal a verdict from you in a minute. You got to be careful, and you got to be. That's why I said cocky. Yeah, as a young man, now I'm just more. I guess a little more self-assured, but, I understand that there are lawyers that are good.
Yeah.
Right, on both sides.
What are some of the landmines you're talking about when you can get a verdict stolen from you, stuff to look out for?
Well, on those cases where your adversary really knows what they're doing, you better have a good plaintiff. That plaintiff better be ready to go to court, right? Your witnesses, we all know defense experts can waffle, right? You got to be careful. Plaintiff experts can waffle. So you got to be careful about your experts. Right nowadays, I try to get, cream of the crop. And I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to make sure that they support my case because, I don't know if you've ever had an expert that supported your case wholeheartedly, got on the stand and kind of was terrible, just changed their position. That happens much more frequently in med-mal than any other area.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so med-mal can be there are a lot of shades of gray.
Is it like a scene in Godfather 2 where he's testifying in front of Congress and then he brings his brother from Italy and he's looking at him and then he just waffles on the stand?
That's actually
and say,
a good.
Like is the doctor being stared at by some co-doctor and he gets guilty or something? Or how do you waffle if you're writing a detailed report? Why doesn't he just stick to his report? Like how does that happen?
Because medicine isn't black and white. It's
Right.
not like engineering, right? And it's not like construction when you're dealing with OSHA. Those rules are those rules. They don't
Yeah.
change. Medical malpractice, you really have to nail every issue down. If you miss one little word in a medical record, you're done. The paradigm is so different, right? So if you're doing a construction case, you have a lot of times these guys make millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they allocate so little to safety, and the workers aren't protected.
Right.
And there's a tough guy theme, man. These guys aren't going to go, well, you didn't give me a, fall protection, so I'm not going to go up. They'll get fired or they'll get made fun of.
Yeah.
It's not with a doctor, the defense is always arguing, well, my doctor was just trying to help the patient.
Yeah.
That's not a profit over safety thing, right? So you have to make sure. Now, there are doctors that are in this just for the money, just like there are lawyers that are in it just for the money. And there are doctors that care. But a lot of times, medicine for me, that's another kind of thing that I don't like. That it seems like hedge funds are buying medical institutions and saying you have to see 30 people in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? That's embellishing. Right, and it's exaggerating.
When you came in here today, and I was meeting with a client, it was a client that we represent in a commercial matter involving exactly what you're just saying there.
So that's what I mean when these hedge funds start buying it, and now profit is over anything.
Yeah.
Go to an emergency room nowadays.
Yeah.
You'll see 50 people sitting there for 24 hours before they get with one doc. I'm going to tell you a story. I went in because I had an issue. About 10 years ago. Wasn't that serious. So I'm sitting there, my doc, I call him, I go, you said to go to the emergency room, I'm waiting 2 hours. Now, there are people who have been waiting, 24 hours, and I'm like, I'm walking out.
Yeah.
So he calls the main doc comes in, brings me right in. I go, what about all those other people? He goes, well, doctor, your doctor said to bring you right in. I said, yeah, but what about all those other people that don't have the connection I do? That's not fair.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, do you want to go back out? I said, no, I want you to handle everybody appropriately, doc. What's the problem?
Yeah.
He goes, well, we only have, and the nurse goes, well, we only have one person here. And we can't see anybody because we're not allowed to hire more. It's too expensive. No, it's not too expensive. It's too expensive now because it's a profit machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how about the fact that these companies are, what are they, 501c3s? They're supposed to be nonprofits.
Oh, the hospitals, yeah.
Yeah. When the head of one of the
Charitable
major
immunity.
institutions is making, $38 million a year,
Yeah.
the CEO, it's a charitable institution, and a charitable institution, that should be attacked big time because nothing's supposed to be for profit.
Yeah.
How about the little stores they have in there selling the flowers and teddy bears? You think that's not for profit? How about the food? You think there are a lot of things they do. How about the buildings they lease back?
Yeah.
I don't know. They get away with that again. Why? They probably pay for re-elections because again, and I don't care if I sound like a broken record, not public service, it's self-service. They want to get reelected, period.
Yeah.
While hospital care goes up, while these, how about the companies heating and electric that just went up 30%? right?
Yeah.
Heating and electric went up 30%. I just so happen to have a case right now where someone got electrocuted because in the allegation is they allowed a distribution line which had thousands, 10s, 20, 30, 40,000 volts go through a tree.
Right.
What's a conductor of electricity, Jer?
Wood will conduct electricity.
Water will.
Yeah,
and water is in the wood of the tree.
Right.
Wood isn't a conductor, but the water in it is. The leaves are.
Right.
This guy got electrocuted while his wife watched. Meanwhile, our rates
because the distribution line, because they didn't cut the trees, they
didn't trim
Yeah.
to get it away from the distribution line.
Yeah.
That being said, that same company was fined $250 million for overcharging, for charging in the name of upgrading the grids.
Yeah.
And for 5 years, they never touched the grids. So think about that.
Yeah.
Think about the unfairness that's out there.
Yeah.
And no one does anything about it. People want to move out of New Jersey. You want to move out of New Jersey. I mean, people don't want to be in New Jersey because we have the highest property taxes. We have the highest state taxes, right? Or one of the highest. What are we, 10.5% on your
That's
income?
high. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And, if you ask anyone in assembly, well, I can't vote against that. I won't get reelected.
Vote against what? The percentage?
Well, the raise. What did they vote against? They didn't stop the utilities from raising 30%, right?
Yeah.
They didn't stop the property taxes from going up every year.
But I always thought Jersey was expensive because it's like a crowded state, the most densely populated, so there's a lot of services and everything.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
If it's most populated, we have the most people paying taxes.
Yeah.
And the most money.
Yeah.
How about instead of giving $1 billion to a university every year, and of course, our universities are important, but when the university is paying their coaches millions and millions of dollars and making money on their sports, why aren't you saving that money and reducing property taxes and making this state livable?
Have you ever thought about getting into politics, running for anything?
No, I don't have the patience.
Yeah. Why? What do you mean?
Well,
Patience for what?
First of all, I don't think that it's difficult to run without backing of either party as an independent.
Right.
And if I had $1 billion, I'd love to run.
You would? Okay.
But I don't.
Yeah.
And since I don't, it's hard.
Okay.
It would be a nice thing to be able to, figure out every single vote and vote away everybody that's self-serving. But
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do. At some point, the dam's got to break.
I feel like plaintiffs' lawyers with the McDonald's coffee cup thing that happened in the 90s, that made these cases very difficult. And I feel like kind of that generation's kind of gone away now, and there's like a new era, and that's not like a hangover thing anymore.
It's funny you talked about that because
I had the exact same thought right now. I was gonna 180 into that kind of.
Yeah.
No, you said like jackpot verdict, not jackpot verdicts. There's no such thing.
Runaway. He said
runaway verdicts post COVID.
Well, runaway, by the way, is a terrible phrase because sometimes people just deserve justice, and that justice is big, right?
Yeah.
Runaway is very rare, and McDonald's coffee, that's a farce, and I'll tell you why. There was a study done on that many years ago after it by some very sophisticated plaintiff lawyers. And what McDonald's did, the allegation was McDonald's kept their coffee 10 times hotter because it was such poor quality. They didn't want you to taste it. So they made it so hot that you couldn't taste it. and that's what got that jury inflamed.
Yeah.
It's not, and then the media from corporate America spun that thing around to say how ridiculous lawsuits are.
Yeah. See, exactly. And we would, we'd walk into court and, there's a jury pool there, and a third of the jury pool is probably against you already, largely because of all that media stuff, But I feel like that's kind of waned, where it's not as much of a thing these days,
I don't think people think of it anymore.
Exactly.
But I used to sidebar when that happened, say, Judge, I need to ask a few questions.
Yeah.
And New Jersey, they're very strict, right? I've tried cases in Pennsylvania, in New York. I've tried cases in Florida. I had a 3-week trial in Florida 2 years ago. And, in those places, I can just ask the jury anything I want.
Yeah.
I go up to a panel, and it's great. New Jersey, you have to beg to ask for anything, right? It's a tough place. So I used to say, look, I want to talk to him about, and I'd go to the sidebar and go, what do you think of that McDonald's verdict? What would you say if McDonald's purposely, if the facts were McDonald's purposely kept that coffee so hot because it was terrible? Would that change your mind? And I'd get a huge objection. I'd be like, Judge, I need a fair jury here.
Mm-hmm.
What's more important than the fair jury? I waited 4 years to get here. Some judges would say, I don't care what you need. We need to move. And other judges would be, you're right.
So where did you learn this stuff from? Like, where did you learn these trial techniques and all this? Were you big, like, did you go to these seminars or something? Or it's just,
again, it's common sense if you think about it, isn't it? It's common sense.
I don't know,
It's
man.
not common.
Not for me. Not for me. I mean, I'm still learning.
Oh, we're all still learning.
But I have to say, Barry, I've learned though, in the last several years to get in court and trial, put away the notepad, talk like a person. It seems like you're just like a natural at it, in terms of connecting with people.
Yeah, being able to connect is important. Knowing the facts is also important, right? Because you don't want to get caught not knowing the facts, because then you lose all your credibility. So talking, yes, it's very important. It's also important to be strategic and to know your case.
Do you spend a lot of time in trial prep? Like I could tell you, Mark and I have tried cases together. I mean, one time I was trying a case and, court ended at 4:30. We were in Middlesex County, your hometown, and drive back, grab something to eat at Wawa on 18 on the way back. And I got to the office at, I don't know, before 6 o'clock. And it was the night before closing. And I think I left the office at about 4:45 in the morning. And then a couple guys were still here. And my dog kept looking at me like, are we going to leave yet? Are we going to leave?
That's great.
And I got home. I rolled into Middlesex County, like on maybe an hour of sleep. And I was just on empty, but it was one of the best closings I think I gave.
Well, because you were prepared.
But do you do that too, or am I like?
No. We're all different.
I remember your former partner Levinson would tell a story how he'd be sitting on the couch smoking a cigarette as his assistant was like prepping the closing and doing and he's like, all right, put this in the PowerPoint. Like, I grind it out on trials.
Well,
how about you? Are you such a natural smooth that you don't even need to?
I'll say that everyone needs to prepare, but at different levels, right? I'm so comfortable by the time the case is over that I'm in bed by 10. I don't want to stay up all night, and I'll tell you, I don't need to, because by that time I already put in all the time.
Right.
So for closing, I think you need to be fresh. But it's an individual thing. You also need to be unafraid. A lot of times people are like, can I say this? Can I say that? I remember one time I quoted Martin Luther King because, here's a guy who, he could have made this country riot like you wouldn't believe, but he wanted peaceful change.
Right.
I don't care what you say about his personal life. People have different opinions, but this guy wanted peaceful change. That's very respectable. So remember, it was Martin Luther King's birthday, and I was going to say, I had an attorney with me who was a partner then. I'm very unsure of himself, but a partner, and he wanted to close. And I said, it's Martin Luther King's birthday. Say something that people can connect with. And he goes, well, I can't do that. I'm not black. I said, do me a favor and get out of my way, and I'll do it. Because you have to be able to reach people. And so Martin Luther King said that our lives begin to change or become meaningless the day we stop talking about things that matter.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought that was profound on his birthday, on a day of closing. And so did the judge at the end. You can't be afraid to quote somebody or to say something that, because you're not Italian, you can't quote an Italian. Because you're not Jewish, you can't quote it. That's silly.
Yeah.
People are people, and we're all the same. We all want the same things. We all love our children. We all want to be the people that care. We all care. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, right? So those things that are meaningful no matter who said them.
Yeah.
And so you can't be afraid to feel like you're, it's not your place to quote somebody, as long as you're giving that person the credit.
I remember I had this trial again. It was in Middlesex County, another one, and I was like, I think I was like not supposed to try it, or maybe it was supposed to settle or something. And I didn't have the best client, and it wasn't the best injury. And I remember one of the lawyers I worked with just popped his head in the courtroom, like just to see how we were doing. I was like, oh my God, like, get me out of here. And it was one of the best verdicts I had, one of the highest verdicts. And I felt like it was because I was relaxed and I wasn't afraid and didn't really care that much. Like, I find that it's important to care, and I always give 100%. But sometimes you can't care too much, in the sense I think that's kind of like maybe along the lines of what you're saying.
That's actually pretty smart.
You can't be afraid to fail or to lose.
No, and that's really intuitive of you to say, yeah, I didn't care, so I just was myself. Really, what you're saying is you were yourself.
Exactly.
And you were comfortable in your own skin.
But I didn't work any less than I did on the next trial or the one before.
No, but
just
you said,
because
screw it. It's what's going to happen is going to happen. I'm just going to give it my best shot.
Yeah.
That's when you're your best, by the way.
Yeah.
That's when you're your best.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it comes off as genuine as
Absolutely.
opposed to staged and stunted.
Well, it not only came off as genuine, you were genuine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to come off as genuine when you're just not genuine.
Yeah, trying to be someone else.
Right. So I try not to emulate other people.
Yeah.
They are who they are. I am who I am, and I'm going to be me. You can't be me, and I can't be you. But I can get nuggets, right? I can read something, and I can say, that was a good idea. Maybe I'll adapt it to my personality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can do that. And so it's always good to read. And you say sometimes I'll watch people.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the guys that I think are talented. Right? So I'll go in and I'll say, oh, this guy's doing a cross or a closing. Let me see what he's got.
Yeah.
And, they're supposed to be the best. And I look at and I say to myself, I can do that.
Did you ever get nervous in court? Like when you were a young lawyer, when the first time you stood up, or oral arguments or anything? I
always got more nervous with the judge than the jury, because I always thought to myself, the jury they're my people.
Yeah.
This is who I am. Look, I'm middle class, lower middle class. That's how I grew up, really, with nothing. And so it doesn't matter how much money I make. I'm always going to be the class I am. That's what I relate to, and that's when I was born, and that's how I'll die. And so when I see people in the box, I always think these are my brethren.
Yeah.
These are the people I grew up with, and, I'm going to talk to them. When it's a judge worried about, is my argument, am I going to sound smart? Yeah. Did I do enough research? That's where I got nervous. Yeah. Very rarely in front of a jury.
Yeah.
Like a bad ruling, you'd be worried about the judge.
I'd be worried about him saying that doesn't make sense, Mr. Eichen. Blah, 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 blah. Why don't you, what about this case? And then I didn't read this case. But generally, I find myself very prepared for those arguments, and I know all the cases. But that's when you worry. That's when you're, as a young lawyer, that's when you're anxious. I don't get anxious as an older lawyer in front of a judge. I did when I was young.
So, I followed your career, and I look at your stuff, and I've ordered a couple of your trials, like, oh, Barry got a big verdict, and then I'll order the audio and listen to it. Do you
I've never listened to one of my audios.
Oh, yeah. I haven't either. Well, only on appeal I'll listen to it,
or for a closing or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like throwing a clip together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, with the clip. But do you kind of like network and go to these seminars and get like?
I very rarely go to a seminar. I go to keep my points.
You always seem you've come across as someone a bit under the radar to me. You know what I mean? Like you're not out there. You're not selling books. You're not. But you get amazing results.
I don't care to sell books. I care to do a great job for people that are in need.
Yeah.
I care to balance the scales of justice, which we have left of justice in this country.
Yeah.
I don't, at one point I wanted to do, Eichen's trial kind of symposium kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was going to do a workshop, and people could come in, young lawyers with big cases that they shouldn't be handling because they don't know what they're doing, and saying, look, I'll try it with you. Come in, I'll workshop it for 3 weeks. I was thinking about putting that together, and then I told a few lawyers about it, and everyone I said, oh, I'd come. So I'm like, maybe I'll do that at some point, but I'm not. I'm kind of playing with that now that I'm 66 years old, maybe to give back a little bit and to be involved in trials with younger lawyers that kind of need the mentoring.
Do you get concerned? Like I try to keep, like you're saying, different areas, not just tort cases, not just personal injury, but do you get concerned about, where's this all going, not only in New Jersey, but federally in terms of tort reform and limiting it and, trying to demonize lawyers? Rick Friedman's a guy, I look up to him. I read all his books and stuff, and he talks about that, trial lawyers are kind of the last line of defense.
Did he do Rules of the Road?
Yeah, he's the Rules of the Road.
That's one of the few books I've ever read on that. When I was a young lawyer, when he first came out, and I liked Rules of the Road. I thought he did a great job. That being said,
you were around for the auto tort reform in the 80s and
I
no
was around
fault
for all of it.
and all of it. And where's
so
this
do I
all
get
going?
concerned? Here's the thing: I have a daughter, Hannah, who's, in my opinion, a fabulous young lawyer, class act, very smart on her feet already, and she's just starting, and I'm concerned for her and her future as to where this is going. So because I have my daughter in the practice now, I worry about it. I want her future to be good, right? And I have young lawyers in the practice that are just terrific.
Yeah.
And so, I have a young lawyer, Robert Banis, who is kind of my right hand as well, and I want those young people to have their opportunities. I have Chris Conrad, who's a great young lawyer in the firm, and I worry about where it's going for them, right? And so these are people I work with who help me with my big cases that take a lot of sophistication, a lot of work, and a lot of effort. So yeah, I worry about that because, again, the paradigm in this country is changing very quickly, and it looks like it's leaning towards away from the individual, away from the citizen, more towards the very, very rich and towards corporate America. And that's a scary shift. And, I'm not going to lie. I stay up nights sometimes thinking about it.
Well, Barry, my point is I just feel like as trial lawyers have effectuated change over the years, whether it be the exploding gas tanks with the Ford Pinto or, you recovering money for Pennsylvania who was getting the public was getting overcharged, or just, it was lawyers that changed, the NIL and NCAA said, yeah, these college guys and CTE, in the football, and changing that so there's less concussions. And I just think us as trial lawyers, I think we should.
Well, then we have to organize, don't we?
Yeah.
We should make our own pact.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're not doing, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
these
there's the NJAJ
individual
pact.
things.
NJAJ.
Yeah.
The old trial lawyers atlas.
It's not very powerful in effectuating political change right now.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, I guess if we want to talk any positivity about it, is I think that this somewhat has been the history of our democracy since its inception in some capacity.
What has?
This feeling of divisiveness and division and this faction's over here and that faction's over there. I think if you're looking back at letters from, whatever, be it the 1700s, 1800s, you're seeing the same sentiment. I think now the combination of what we're talking about with technology and social media stuff is so much more in your face. That's not saying that what's happening right now in Minnesota is okay. It's a horrible, horrible thing. I think now it's just getting poured into your face, your eyes nonstop. And you're now surrounded in this kind of this echo chamber where you talk about it with your friends and your friends agree that this is horrible, and it just keeps getting reinforced and reinforced. And then you have another camp where the same thing's happening on their end, and it just keeps pushing people further apart. I mean, I hope that it's something where we'll come back to a place where families aren't getting essentially like split up over this type of thing, where they won't even talk to each other because one side's in this camp and another side's in that camp, which in my, I'm 36. In my lifetime, I don't remember seeing anything even approaching this. But I think the hope is that this great experiment that we have has been through this before and it's survived. And my hope is it just continues to survive.
Well, the other part of it is it's in our faces because we are now, there's more transparency than ever. You have to read between the lines because there's a lot of false news there. Because people's, everybody has an agenda, right? So the point is that in order to effectuate change, we do have technology the highest it's ever been. We should look into our legislature, state, and we're concerned about New Jersey right now and the country. People should, some would be nice if we could have just pop something up on the internet. So this is how this person voted. This is why your electric bill is so high. Let's get this person out. This is how this person voted on, on raising our property taxes and giving money out to their benefactors rather than helping the citizens of the country. That would be a positive move. Like if we can have a movement where we actually shed light on that, we can make real change.
There is absolutely no focus on the positivity, though, like you're talking about.
But that would be positive change.
Absolutely.
Let's get instead of everything's done in the dark, right? When all these contributions are done or all these votes are done in the middle of the night, it's done in the dark so you don't see it. Let's put a light on. If we could find, people that are willing, and our young people are smart, and we start out with such good intentions, right? We want to help our neighbors. We want to be good people. Boy, my daughter's the biggest do-gooder you ever saw, right? She just wants to help people, period. Right? So one time she was assigned and I know I shouldn't pitch, but I'm going to do it anyway. One day she was assigned an indigent matter, criminal, right? And so so she gets the case. She's not getting paid for it, right? The court assigns these cases.
Yeah.
She goes to me, Dad, I don't think this guy did this crime. I'm going to get an investigator. I go, you are? She goes, yeah. Now, the court won't pay for it. She goes, but they won't pay for it, Dad. They assigned it, but I'm going to do it out of my own money. I'm just going to do it. I was like, Hannah, it's a firm thing, and you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do the best you can do. She goes, no, I'm supposed to be the best lawyer I can be, and I am supposed to do the right thing, no matter what it costs me. Because this case was assigned, and that doesn't mean they're going to get worse legal representation. And I was really proud of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's going to just go out of pocket. Not getting paid, and she's going to go out of pocket no matter what it costs.
Is that the end of the story?
Yeah.
All right. So let me pick up on that story. So when I was a young lawyer and got assigned a pro bono case, so in New Jersey we have, just for the listeners, some of the listeners out there, we always joke that we have 5 listeners on the show.
Right.
So for the 2 that aren't lawyers, so we have mandatory pro bono in New Jersey where the lawyer is required and they'll assign you a case, and a lot of times it is violating like restraining order cases. So I was assigned one of those as a young lawyer. I met the guy in jail. I went to him, and I said the same thing. I'm going to work this case up like any other case, and I said I need an investigator. So I checked the court rules, and the court rule says, there's court rules that govern this pro bono stuff, and the court rule says. It lays out the pro bono requirement, but it says no lawyer shall be required to come out of pocket for this. So I filed a motion to compel someone to pay the cost of an investigator, because to properly represent this guy and support his constitutional right to a fair trial and representation, I need an investigator. And I think I filed a motion to compel the public defender's office to pay for it, or to compel the prosecutor. And they're all in there, the prosecutor and Judge Locascio happened to be the judge in criminal in Monmouth County that year. And he comes in and he's like, well, and he's laid it out. He doesn't have to pay. The constitutional right, he needs it. And they dismiss the case.
Oh,
rather
beautiful.
than have
Rather than have to
the
pay,
precedent,
dismiss the case.
the precedent that on the pro bono cases it would come out of the budget of either the prosecutor or the public defender's office. They dismissed the case.
Yeah, so this was a robbery, and they weren't about to dismiss it.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it depends on the severity of the crime.
Yeah.
So that was smart, very smart
Yeah.
on your
I mean,
part.
the guy was.
and not only smart, ethical.
Yeah. I mean, we laid it out there.
Yeah, that's nice.
Can I jump back into something that I think is not as fun as what you guys want to talk about?
Sure.
But so I'm just kind of into the whole trajectory of your firm and how things started out. So you talked about when you first opened up, then you had a partner. Now I understand you have 25 or so attorneys at the firm.
I really don't know. How
Yeah.
many attorneys I have.
What was the growth model with that? And what was, you see some, it's like, let's take on every case we can and we're volume.
No, there's
You say
no,
the more complicated stuff you got into, like what was kind of the vision there and the growth?
we just kept getting busier. Most of my clients were always word of mouth. And then COVID hit, and we decided, wow, everybody's bringing it in. We're just going to not do that. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to spend money and kind of put us out there in the public. And we got really big at that time because nobody else was advertising. Our growth was exponential. Now, if you're going to have exponential growth, it's not fair to have an attorney handle more than 100 cases, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, some attorneys handle 300. God bless them. But I don't know the adequacy of the representation you're going to get handling 300 cases. So as we got more files, I just added more lawyers. It was that simple. Because that really was our spurt when post-COVID. Now, before that, we've always had 11, 10, 9, 8, whatever we had. We've always had a fair amount of growth, but a lot of it started to be advertising-based. I preferred it word of mouth. Although, we do quite a bit of social media and advertising, I've always liked word of mouth better. But sometimes, that's changed a little bit. I think everybody's on social media these days. Hence, we have a podcast right now, right? We're all a little bit more.
Social media kind of is the new word of mouth, I would say, in many ways,
Oh, yeah. It's the old town center or whatever going down there. Social media now is.
It's funny. When I started out, I was a young lawyer, and, I thought I was this great lawyer. I didn't know anything. But I had a lot of energy. I thought I could absorb information quickly, and I was loved to, to right wrongs. To me, it was kind of a natural thing. But I'd go to a gas station. I'd get my gas tank filled. I'd give the guy $5. I'd go to a bar, a pub, where guys were drinking. I'd just say, everybody get a drink on me, and have my cards. I never had to advertise. I just everywhere I went, I just spent money and took care of people, and they remembered me, and that's kind of what I did. And so,
Wait. So that you would you'd go to a bar or something, be like, all right,
bar.
drinks on me, and then here's some business
never been
cards.
in my life before. I'd go to the bar. I'd see 20 guys drinking. I go, you know what, guys? And I always like to meet people. I like people, and and so, sometimes I don't, but for the most part, I like. Let's just put it this way: I like guys. I go where guys hang out. Right? They throw darts and they play pool. Always like to play pool. Always like to throw darts. Right? So I'd go I'd find a new place and I'd be like, "Hey guys, man, let me give you all these drinks. Here's what I do. Here's my cards." I do that constantly. Those joints don't exist anymore, really. There's far and few between. They were all over the place. There was one on every corner, in the 80s, the early 80s. And so it's really hard for a young lawyer to do that now.
Yeah.
You just don't get business by it.
Especially in this day and age, too. If you walked into a bar and did that, the group would be like, who the heck are you? Why? We're talking. It's just a different environment.
Well, it's a way different environment.
Yeah.
You ever do that, Jack?
I would do some of that stuff. I would.
What are you, 50?
Yeah, I'm older than 50, but thank you. I would do some of the kind of the pound the pavement type marketing and drumming up business, but I don't know. I remember way back when, the yellow pages, and I was telling my partners back then, I'm like, the yellow page, this is, so I kind of started moving into more internet marketing stuff, I think a little bit earlier on.
A lot of people did the yellow pages back then. I think I was one of the last guys to get into it. I just had such a big following. See, for me, it really wasn't pounding the pavement. I was out anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just like to be social at that point in my life. It's a little different now, but at that point.
You had this recent case with the sad case, the thing with the hot tub, and then I read in the law journal, it's like, yeah, and I spent $300,000 on experts in that case. That seemed a lot.
No, actually, on the drowning case in Bayonne, we spent about $435,000 because we scanned the place with an actual scanner. I think that cost us about $150,000, and we actually had the designers, put a safety device. What would happen if you add this and boom, it'd pop up on the design? So I did the same thing for the spa case, and it was a little less than that. I quoted 2, and that was a misprint of the 3. I spent about 2 on that one.
Yeah,
but we spent $430, way over 4 on the other one. But we did spend a lot of money on both cases, and when you think about.
But tell us about the spa case. So you had a guy. He's at a spa in Middlesex County, and he's in a hot tub, and then they just find the guy dead.
Yes. Well, they went by, and he had ingested. He had a syncopal episode, which means he passed out
In a hot tub in a spa.
In a hot tub in a spa, and it's all nude. You don't wear clothes in there, and it's a Korean spa, and they have these little igloos. And they have food and they have services. It's a pretty sophisticated place. And women stay on one side and men on the other. It's completely separate.
Yeah.
And so their allegation was, look, it's nude. We can't really keep that much of an eye on it. People want their privacy.
Right.
So by the time someone walked by, he was floating and his lungs had already filled with water.
Yeah.
And CPR was done, but to no avail. And then they tried the paddles on the AED. It's an automated electronic defibrillator.
Yeah.
And the battery wasn't installed right, and the thing didn't throw a spark. And so, there was a chance that he would have survived. So we obviously hired. I think there were 8 of the best pool experts and water experts in the country, and I hired all 8 for our side. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's actually being a good lawyer and protecting your client's interest.
Yeah.
So we hired them, and then I hired scanners. At one point, I flew in 7 or 8 experts, had them stay overnight. We went to the spa at 6 o'clock in the morning before they filled them by order. I had a court order, and all of us were in the spa. People were scanning. People were looking at warnings. I had people, engineers, looking at the design. So it was an interesting little.
So about how old was the decedent?
Well, I got to be careful with this because the client wants confidentiality.
Oh, okay.
And so
it was in the law journal, though.
Yeah, and it was because she had overlooked the release that said.
Oh.
The release said that you could advertise, and so. Bottom line is, subsequently, she was a little nervous that if anyone would find out what kind of money she got.
Right.
It's understandable.
I understand.
Clients get anxious when it comes to that. But,
yeah.
But I can talk about the facts.
Yeah.
And so, we put a lot of time and a lot of effort in that case, and we deposed a lot of people. And I thought the result was extraordinary, being that there is no hedonic damages in New Jersey, which we spoke about earlier, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for the other case, which was actually, almost 5 times the amount, the one in Bayonne, and that was a public entity.
Yeah.
So, that case was interesting.
So you think like you put a lot of money into the cases and stuff, and that's
Well, it's
kind
not
of one of
just
the
money;
angles.
it's creativity, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things we did with the Asian family that lost their two boys, one 16 and one 19, is I went to Princeton and got a cultural expert, and that cultural expert opined that children of that particular culture, unlike in America, take care of their parents for life, and that added value to that case. So it's just not, sometimes you have to think outside the box,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because things that people would overlook.
Yeah.
Is that type of thing? Like, that sounds like that's the extra mile type of thing, reaching out to Princeton for a cultural expert in your case. Is that part of what you think gets some of these numbers that you've been able to get?
That's the way my mind kind of works. What
Yeah.
what can I do to show the value of a different culture, right? And so it just, it's something that I just looking at the case and said, you know what? I don't like the value that they're putting on this kid's life.
We represent, sorry to cut you off,
No,
you're still
that's
going,
all
but
right.
we represent a lot of, construction workers, oftentimes Portuguese, Brazilian, or Spanish speaking individuals. And I remember running across the DSM. I think at one point it was the DSM-4.
Now it's the 5.
Now it's the 5. And the big distinguishing thing that our psychologists that we work with talk about is the DSM-5 takes into account multicultural factors that
very
the
cool.
DSM-4 did
Yeah.
not. And I remember specifically, it's a case that we talked about before we started. We had a guy that got backed up over by a utility truck. He was Portuguese. And when he interviewed with a psychologist, he said, I feel like a nulta, which means nothing. Like I feel like a non-entity. Yeah. And when she testified to that, I thought that came across very powerful because in his community, the fact that he would go to work, get this paycheck, come home, give it to his wife who handled the finances, that made him so proud. And now that he's just,
disabled, he can't, or challenged. Look, that's a very good point, and that's thinking outside the box, using and actually sitting there looking at it and finding what's the difference in the DSM-4 and the DSM-5. You might want to consider, and I'm sure you do on those cases, human factors as well, because human factors is something very few attorneys think about.
Yeah, and I can't sit here and take credit. It was a case I worked on with Jerry, but
that's the difference between you and I would have taken the credit.
No.
I don't know what he's talking about. I think we did like 50-50 on the case,
Did you?
Whatever the result was, I'm sure I couldn't have gotten it without Mark. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, Mark seems like a pretty good young lawyer. And I'm only saying young because you're 36, I think you said, Mark?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you.
All right, so talk real quick about in this business in this business being like New Jersey litigation, state court practices and stuff, the politics end of it. Does it help to have, a reputation, a name? Like,
that's an interesting question.
Do you kind of look at the political landscape of, what's going on here and what are the different factors, if you understand what I'm saying?
When you deal with the appellate division, right? When you're dealing with a public entity, you're always worried about about the politics, right? Because those judges are appointed; they're not elected, and if it's going to cost the state money, they're going to say to themselves, "Let me look." It's not. I wouldn't be surprised if they said, "Let me look for a way to turn this thing on its head."
Yeah.
Let me look for the slightest little thing that I think shouldn't have been said, and let's put the money back in the public coffers. So that's. You don't want to offend the politicians, which is something I probably do much too often. But judges, it's very rare I have a problem with judges. As I get older, I think they realize the amount of time you put in, that you paid your dues when you're older. And, most judges are going to be objective and not hold a cudgel, and so you show a judge respect, most of the time you're going to get respect back. You have the one-offs.
Yeah.
You know it as well as I do. You have judges who are just impossible.
Maybe 2 offs, but yeah.
Okay. Right. But right, maybe 2 offs. But for the most parts, the bench and I do okay. There's nothing more frustrating that when a young judge gets on the bench and they've done other than trial work, which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody does what speaks to them. It's fine to be transactional. It's fine to do real estate. It's fine to do, drug company litigation. But when you don't have trial experience,
Yeah.
and you're up there making decisions and you don't really know the rules of evidence, because let's face it, until you're on your feet, those rules, as you read them, your head spins,
Yeah.
hearsay and all the other evidential things. And you're like, they don't make sense, but they start to kind of,
They come to life when you live them.
they come to life when
Yes,
you're
big
in
time.
the courtroom.
Yeah.
Now they make
Oh,
sense.
that's what they meant by
Now
that.
they gel, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
wow, this stuff's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so I pride myself on knowing evidence. One of the things you need to know if you're a trial lawyer.
Yeah.
Right? And so when the judge doesn't know it, boy, is that a problem.
It's like playing a baseball game with an umpire that doesn't necessarily
No
know
baseball.
the rules too well.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a delicate situation to be in then too, when you're trying to, at least, especially I would say as a young attorney, hey judge, I think actually this is what the rule says, and without doing it in a way that's
I'll
offensive.
tell you something funny. I was watching a trial the other day, and I don't watch many people.
Because no one's as good as you.
And now
What are
that's
you gonna
not
learn?
true. Stop it.
So how about this dynamic, though? You say you're 66 and you've kind of grown up in the law and you've gone through this and hung out a shingle. And then some of the lawyers that you've gone battle with in the courtroom over the years are now your judges. How's that dynamic? Like, have you ever ooh, maybe I shouldn't have been so,
I don't apologize for what I did on behalf of my client.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't apologize for that at all. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. So if a judge takes that personal, I'd rather say, Judge, I think maybe we should recuse yourself because we had pretty much of a battle.
Have you had that over the years where lawyers that you were against are now sitting on the
No.
bench on your cases?
Yes, I have, but
Yeah.
I've never had a judge say, in my mind,
You never felt
prejudice
right.
me. I never felt like the judge held a grudge. I have had a judge hold a grudge
Right.
terribly, try to hurt me and client, and totally disregard the fact that my client, was wronged and was in extremis and needed really good representation, and completely disregard that because they didn't like, the way we had interacted. But that's far and few between,
Yeah.
right? That has happened, but it's happened to me with one judge,
Yeah.
and that judge is retired. So
Yeah. All right. So what else? You got any kind of
magic words.
magic words for the youngins out there?
Well, be confident in yourself. Don't experiment with it. Don't put your client at risk when you don't, when you have a case you're unfamiliar with. Bring somebody in,
Yeah.
because that's not fair, right? It shouldn't be about your pocket, although we all want to make a living. And if you're good and you do the right thing, you will make a good living. Try to be positive. If you have questions, don't be afraid to ask somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really quite simple, right?
And be yourself. Right?
Yeah, be yourself is really important.
That is, I feel like, and again, I guess I'm giving you guys are the seasoned litigants. I guess I am kind of the younger attorney in the room. I feel like once you have a certain level of comfort with trying cases, you start to feel more like you can be yourself. Whereas when you're starting, you're like, I don't want to sound dumb. I don't want to get this wrong or do that wrong. And then once you're kind of in it, it's a very liberating thing to be able to be like Jerry says, toss your notes or not,
Quite frankly, I didn't even get my stride to the place I, felt extraordinarily comfortable and not have the bravado like I'm great, which is nonsense. You're effective or you're not effective, and you should be confident. But I didn't even get to my stride going until I was in my 50s, to tell you the truth. And right now is the most comfortable I've ever felt on my feet in my life.
Yeah.
So the trick is to not just get there, but continue, because you get stale if you don't continue to when you have an opportunity to be on your feet. Don't be on your feet just to be on your feet. You have a great settlement. You don't want to hurt your client. But if you have an opportunity to be on your feet, you should never shy away from it, because each time you're in a courtroom, you learn every single time. You feel more comfortable and you get better. So if you have an opportunity to be on your feet, it's a privilege to be on your feet. You're lucky to be able to be on your feet. Not many people get to impart wisdom and to talk to people and to get to let them know, to help right or wrong. So if you have that opportunity, I would seize on that opportunity.
And
especially as a young lawyer.
That's awesome. That's kind of the culture that we've created. It's not like, I have this trial. It's like, I get to try this case. Like I get to try this. We genuinely look forward to trying cases.
Well, you shouldn't be a trial lawyer if you don't look forward to it.
But I do think there's probably a lot of people in this profession that want nothing to do with trying a case.
Well, and that's fine because you know who you are.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with not trying a case. And if you like to write, you be the writer. If you like transactional work, you do the transactional work. You don't have to be on your feet. But if you're going to handle people who are catastrophically injured and whose lives will change if, for the better, if you do a great job, you can't get, let's put it this way, you're never going to get justice if you're not willing to be on your feet, because the defense has a little book, and that little book says, is this guy afraid to be on his feet? Is this guy lose every trial he has? Is this guy dangerous? I want to be the guy that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? Because if this guy's dangerous, I'm getting justice for my client.
Yeah.
I'm getting what I should get, and I'm not getting taken, and my client's not being taken.
All right, man. Parting words. Barry, it's so your law firm, it's Eichen Crutchow Zaslow, right?
You bet.
And so we'll put your, not that it's needed because you can look you up, but we'll put your website in the show notes so people can find you even easier.
Great. Appreciate it.
Listen, we really appreciate you coming on. And I've told Mark over the years, like the lawyers I look up to, and we try to emulate, in terms of the results and the fearless willingness to go to trial in the face of, difficulties. I've always talked about you, and I'm not lying, Mark, right?
No, he's not at all.
He's one of the guys
you asked me when we sat down before if, do you know who I am? And all, I was like, yeah, I've heard of you.
Well, I appreciate it.
So it's awesome, Barry. Thanks so much. And thanks for what you've done for all those victims over the years,
Yeah, right back at you.
All right, cool.